Such an important conversation. There's more and more organizations are taking up the cause, fighting for menstrual equality and stigma-free periods. It's still an issue, even in 2023, can you believe it? One such organization is known as the Red Movement. Its goals to raise awareness on issues surrounding period poverty, creating a positive period culture, and educating people about the menstrual cup. They've also got something very exciting leading up to Women's Day. I'm not going to give it away, of course. Let me bring in co-founders Joseph and Lesego Mpyana with me in the studio this afternoon. Joseph and Lesego, good to have you with us. And let me start, first of all, Lesego, just because you're closer to me, if that's okay. The issue is still being dealt with in 2023. Yeah. How do we still have a stigma around this? You would think right now this is common knowledge from all the way from when periods start, all the way through schooling, through home life, to university. This really shouldn't be such a stigmatized issue.
100%. I think that women more and more need to speak up about periods. So many of us come from cultures where it's not something that's easily spoken about, it's not like common around the dinner table. And I think that's why more and more organizations like ourselves need to stand up and start speaking about periods to end the stigma, because I think really that's the first thing to do, is to start openly speaking about periods and more importantly educating young girls early on and preparing them.
And Joseph, I deliberately kept you second so you and I can have a guy discussion here. Lesego, is not to exclude you. We're still weird talking about this, aren't we? As Lesego says, we won't bring it up around a dinner table, yet there are dads who have daughters, there are fathers who have daughters, there are husbands who have wives. This is normal. Why is this so weird for us guys?
Yeah, I think that, you know, from the point of view of fighting period poverty, most of the socioeconomic funding is handled by men, right? And so because we don't experience periods, we don't see how much of an issue that is. And so
it's a lived experience we don't have.
100%, which is why in most boardrooms, from a corporate funding point of view, we're not addressing period poverty and how we can actually actively solve it, because we don't experience it.
Can I just get a point of view of period poverty? I mean, we've done interviews before where we know schoolgirls are missing weeks, months at worst, maybe even more, of schooling because of period. Give me a sense of what and how bad period poverty is.
Period poverty, it's actually got so many layers. You know, like the term period poverty itself, I feel, is just the top of the mountain.
It's the headline,
so much, just the headline, right? So it's girls missing school, women not being able to take part in their daily activities, but it also extends to period stigma, right? It extends to the lack of infrastructure for women and girls to properly manage their periods. You know, the systems, clean water, safe places, you know, toilets that flush. And so it's actually quite a basic hygiene, which is like a human rights issue. So it's so much more than just, you know, like girls missing school, which is a huge issue. So yeah, like it just trickles down to so many other parts of women's life that restricts us from being able to participate in the economy on an equal basis as men.
So, and I'm so glad you led that very nicely back to Joseph again. So where do we begin to take this conversation? There's the problems, there's the layers, the multiplicity of issues. Which one, Joseph, to your mind and this organization, do we begin to deal with first? Or can't you deal with one thing only? You've got to attack it from all angles.
Yeah, I think what Lesego touched on earlier in terms of each household having conversations, you know, it has to be an open discussion at home. Parents need to be comfortable talking to their daughters about it and actually explaining that this is a normal thing in life, you know, but also extending to schools. Schools need to start having more conversation about it. It has to be normal. Boys need to be educated about it and say, listen, if you see this happen, it is normal, you know, and then we can pass that barrier, or we can solve that issue. But then there's still the issue of period products being affordable, right? And so many organizations, companies do really good jobs doing pad drives, you know, but for our point of view, where the Red Movement comes from, we realized that from a sustainability point of view, I was a corporate social responsibility manager for a company that did spend lots of money in pad drives. And over time, we realized that, you know, it's just too expensive for us to keep doing. And then therefore we cut the program. So we realized that an important thing to do would be to bring in a sustainable product and actually put this in the hands of these young girls, and then, which is why we then introduced the menstrual cup.
I want to talk about that. That's exactly where I was going to next.
Yeah.
Give me a sense of what this is exactly. To my mind's eye, I've done interviews on this before where I get what it is because of the costing issue. This solves the costing issue. How practical is it, and how does it actually work?
It is so practical. So menstrual cup is basically a silicone product. It's a funnel-shaped product, and it's made of FDA-approved medical-grade silicone, which means it's safe, which is like very important. And it's like a tampon inserted. So you have to insert the cup. It opens up, and it, as opposed to absorbing your blood, it just collects your blood. You can keep it in for up to 12 hours, and one single cup can last for up to 10 years. And I think my favorite thing about the cup is how healthy and easy it is to actually use once a girl is properly equipped with the education to use it. And all you need to ensure that it is hygienic is to boil it. So if you can boil something, if you can boil water, you can safely use menstrual cup, because the best way to sanitize it is by boiling it for up to 5 minutes. Wash your hands and you're good to go.
And how easily accessible, Joseph, are these? Because I'll be honest, I have a wife. Obviously, I've gone to buy sanitary products before. I've never seen one of these in my regular store, unless I've missed something. To be fair, I'm not looking for them, but it's not exactly glaringly obvious either.
Yeah, so they aren't. The reality of it is that they're not accessible, and the reason for that is because menstrual cups have always been used or viewed as a luxury product, right? So you would find one in store from upwards of, I don't know, 350 all the way to $1,500. So that is not
afford that?
So that exactly. So not everyone can afford that, and most importantly, the people that need it the most, they're the ones who can't afford it. You know, so we then, when we actually started, we trying to figure out how we can actually get these into store and get people to go and buy them themselves. But the idea of actually using corporate funding to get thousands of them out into schools without kids having to pull out money, or families really having to pull out money out of their own pockets, you know, the money that can go towards buying bread, we then started doing that. So we started inviting corporates and saying, hey, $100 can give one child a menstrual cup, but also a workshop on menstrual hygiene and menstrual education. So yeah, $100 basically removes the girl from the stigma of period poverty for up to 10 years.
And this is not a lot of money for corporates as well. Is this a difficult, I don't want to say a fight to take on, because it sounds like it's combative. Let me rephrase. Is this a difficult request to get a reaction to? I mean, Joseph's saying it's $100 for a corporate. It's not a lot of money, but I imagine the fact we're sitting here talking about this, it's a lot more could be done.
True. It's not a difficult request. I think that we've interacted with corporates that are really willing, corporates that have done work in this space before, that have done pad drives. But I think the issue is exposure, right? And being able to educate these corporates that we work with about the cup. But otherwise, like, corporates are willing and able to actually invest into communities. It's just about getting in front of them.
And here we are trying to do exactly that as well. So if someone is watching this afternoon, maybe a corporate, maybe a school, maybe a university, anyone who might be interested, Joseph, let me come to you. How do they begin to get involved in this? We've spoken about the Red Movement, but I imagine there's an easier way to get hold of either the two of you or the group.
Yeah. So the Red Movement is actually a campaign that is partnered with Clarence South Africa. So they were the first company that jumped on when we first started, and they said, hey, listen, we believe in what you guys are doing, and we want to be the voice behind, actually the wind behind your guys' sales. And they came on, and they were incredibly proactive, and they wanted to learn, and they wanted to educate their whole team. And then from doing that, they realized that, you know, even their own staff was interested. You know, their kids, they want to get their kids using it and all of that. So they found us online, which we've got a website, moveafricaco.com, and then...
I'm sorry, I missed that. Give it to me again.
moveafricaco.com. Okay. That's our website. And then our Instagram page is the_red_movement_.
Yes.
Yeah, so that is, but from a corporate who wants to get involved. So the Red Movement, as I said, it's a campaign, but the company that we run is called Move Africa, and then that's what enables other corporates to come in and do corporate social responsibility projects in other spaces as well of socioeconomic need. But in order to get through to us there, again, you can reach us on our website or get in touch directly with us on 076 3700 484. That is the number that we use, or info@moveafricaco.com.
I'm going to ask you to repeat that number again at the end for me.
Sure.
So those watching at the moment, if you missed that, grab a piece of paper, grab a tissue, grab the back of someone's shirt if you need to, get a pen. I'm going to ask you for that as we say goodbye.
Perfect.
To repeat that number. But I want to ask this. I don't get a sense there's much of a push, Lesego, from government to subsidize this. We've got sin taxes. We always talk about fuel prices, and the finance minister just a few weeks ago talking about billions and trillions, and I've lost track of how much debt we're in at the moment. Where does government come into this? You've got the private sector, as Joseph talks about, but where's government on this? There's money, but not necessarily for this.
Yeah, 100%. I think it comes back to exposure and being able to get in front of the right people in the correct rooms. And so far, like you mentioned, like we've been able to penetrate the corporate and private space, but government is, you know, a bigger fight that we definitely want to continue to engage. But I think like it's important to get their backing, you know, to be able to...
Who's the minister you want to talk to?
Ooh, who do you want to talk to?
Ministers are watching the show all the time. I know they are. So who do you want to talk to?
Yeah, Minister of Education, Minister of Health. Those I think are the two primary people that we'd like to speak to because I mean we've done our research, and not only our research, we go into schools. As I said, we don't just drop the cups into the laps of these young girls and say bye. You know, we have an hour-long program where we discuss period poverty and where we discuss menstrual health as a whole. You know, how to track ovulation, different other ways to use to manage your period and such, right? So when we go into these schools and we speak to teachers and we try and find out where else are you getting help from, and they say, yeah, we do get help from government with getting pads, but the problem is that they help us out with a certain amount every month. So in January, the grade 8s will get, and then in February, the grade 9s will get, and then so on and so forth. So for the other months, these girls don't have. And the honest truth to that is that it's too expensive to do it for every single child, every single month, right? Which is why our whole push, our whole drive has been, you know, to try and get in front of these ministers and say, hey, yes, this product is an unknown product to many people. It's widely used in Europe and America as, you know, your go-to menstrual product. But what we're saying is we're here. We've got teams on the ground who want to educate people about this cup, and it's $100 and it'll last for 10 years. So you don't have to. Once you've done it once for one grade, that's you. You can step out for the next 10 years. And from a sustainability point of view, an environmental friendliness point of view, it's a no-brainer.
Lesego, I'm going to give you the last word on this as well, because you brought it up right at the start of our discussion, and it's such a good point. I want to circle back around to board members, managers. Let's be honest, we know this, it's widely reported, they're still male dominated. And we know when it comes to an issue like this, unless it's a lived experience, it's not going to be pushed through. So imagine for a moment there is an open-minded, I would like to believe, CEO, COO, CFO, pick an acronym at this point, that's listening. What do you want to tell that male-dominated company why this is the way to go?
Oh gosh, I mean, we speak about 4 pillars of, you know, the menstrual cup and the impact that it actually has, apart from just helping girls to access, you know, school. The environmental impact, you know, from an ESG point of view, you know that corporates, there's a big push for sustainability. Like that's a concern for every single corporate. It's a sustainable product, you know, lasting 10 years. The environmental impact is huge. Economically, like Joseph touched on, we're giving money back to those parents who would otherwise be spending it on pads and tampons. From a access to education point of view, right? Girls don't have to miss out on school. Women don't have to miss out on work. Sportswomen can continue, you know, pushing without having to be restricted by their periods. And the 4th pillar is empowering women, which I think like...
Saved you on that one. You were like, oh boy. I knew I should have brought some notes.
Empowering women, you know, and so just like so many benefits, but it's important that we are actually able to get in front of the decision makers. But I also want to touch on us working as a team, like Joseph stepping into a boardroom with a, you know, group of men. It's not an easy thing, but
trying to have this conversation.
Yes, having, you know, like having males start that conversation in a room full of people that can relate to you is important. And so having more and more males speak about it, like from, you know, I'm a father, I'm a brother, I am, you know, a boyfriend. It impacts all of us.
I imagine walking into a boardroom and dropping the word tampons is about as awkward as walking into a bar while watching a football game and going, tampons, and see what kind of reaction you get. But that's the kind of conversation us guys should be having. And this kind of awkwardness has got to, it's weird. We all know it. It's all happening, but we're just not able to do it. I'll need to say goodbye to both of you. Just remind me very quickly of that cell phone number, because I know CEOs are going to be phoning you. Just give me that number again.
That is 076 37 00 484, and our email address is info@moveafricaco.com. So it's moveafricaco.com.
All right, perfect. Moveafricaco.com. The number is 076 370 0484.
Correct.
Okay, we're going to make sure we try and get that onto our YouTube channel after the interview as well. Make sure we get those numbers and those email addresses out. And if you're a corporate, you've heard how much it costs, 100 rand.
Yeah.
I don't think you can buy a coffee in Santon these days.
Yeah.
For not a coffee and a cookie anyway.
Yeah.
In Santon these days, it's really not a lot of money. So corporates, private sector, you've heard what can be done. Please try and make a difference as well. My thanks to both Joseph and Lesego Mpyana from the Red Movement this afternoon. I'll repeat the number again, just in case you've missed it. 076 370 0484 is the number that you need if you'd like to get involved. And there's every reason as well to get involved.